Good evening. I'm your host, and welcome to Kenya News Update today. In a dramatic escalation of South Africa's long running battle against organized crime, the city of Cape Town is preparing for a major military deployment as police conduct simultaneous raids on multiple gang strongholds. This 12-minute deep dive examines the unfolding crisis, the historical context, and what this means for South Africa's future. We'll analyze the statistics, hear multiple perspectives, and explore the complex factors that have brought one of Africa's most iconic cities to this critical juncture. The situation in Cape Town represents not just a local law enforcement challenge, but a profound test of governance, social cohesion, and the very rule of law in post-apartheid South Africa. As we report this evening on February 14th, 2026, armored police vehicles are rolling through the streets of townships like Manenberg, Hanover Park, and Lavender Hill. The operation, dubbed Shield and Spear, involves over 1,200 police officers, supported by tactical units and intelligence personnel. Their target, the leadership and infrastructure of gangs that have effectively governed these neighborhoods for decades. The scale is unprecedented. Authorities have identified 47 specific properties for simultaneous search and seizure. The goal is to dismantle the command structures of groups like the Americans, the Hard Livings, and the Sexy Boys, organizations with international drug trafficking links, and a terrifying grip on local communities. But why now, and why the unprecedented call for army support? To understand, we must go back. The roots of Cape Town's gang crisis are deeply entangled with South Africa's history. The apartheid-era Group Areas Act forcibly relocated non-white populations to the Cape Flats, a vast, windswept plain on the city's outskirts. These townships were designed as reservoirs of cheap labor, deliberately under-resourced and isolated. With the formal economy offering few opportunities, informal and often illicit economies flourished. Gangs filled the vacuum left by a hostile state, providing a twisted form of protection, dispute resolution, and even social welfare. After the democratic transition in 1994, the promise of a better life for all proved elusive in these areas. Chronic unemployment, estimated in some wards at over 60%, poor service delivery, and crumbling schools created perfect recruiting grounds. Children as young as 9 are routinely recruited, offered money, status, and a sense of belonging that schools and families, strained by poverty, cannot provide. The statistics are staggering. According to the latest South African Police Service annual report, the Western Cape, where Cape Town is located, consistently records the highest murder rate in the country. On average, there are 57 murders per 100,000 people annually in the province, more than double the national average. A significant majority are linked to gang violence. In the last fiscal year alone, police recorded over 4,000 gang-related incidents in the Cape Town metro, including assassinations, extortion rackets, and territorial shootings. But numbers only tell part of the story. The human cost is immeasurable. We spoke to community activists, residents, and analysts to get a fuller picture. Nomsa Dlamini, a community organizer in Khayelitsha, describes a climate of perpetual fear. You hear the gunshots every night, she says. It's like background music. Children learn to dive under their beds before they learn to read. The gangs control who comes in and out, they tax the spaza shops, they decide who can work. The police come, they make arrests, and 2 days later the same guys are back on the corner. It's a revolving door. This perception of police ineffectiveness is central to the current crisis. Critics argue that the South African police service is chronically under-resourced, plagued by corruption, and simply outgunned. Gang arsenals often include military-grade weaponry, believed to be smuggled from conflict zones or leaked from state armories. A single gang stronghold raid last year yielded 34 illegal firearms, including AK-47s and R5 rifles, over 2,000 rounds of ammunition, and 4 kilograms of methamphetamine. The police response has often been reactive and fragmented. This is where the call for the South African National Defence Force, the SANDF, comes in. The provincial government, led by the opposition Democratic Alliance, has been pleading with the national government, controlled by the African National Congress, for military assistance for years. They argue that only the army has the manpower, the equipment, and the disciplined command structure to secure areas and create a stable environment for policing and social development to take root. Premier Alan Winde stated yesterday, "We are facing an insurgency, not mere crime." These are organized militias controlling territory. Conventional policing cannot reclaim these spaces alone. We need the army to be the shield behind which we can rebuild. This perspective is fiercely debated. On the other side are civil society groups and some national officials who warn of the dangers of militarizing a civic problem. They point to the fundamental principle that soldiers are trained for war, not community policing. Their presence, they argue, could escalate violence, lead to human rights abuses, and further alienate communities already deeply distrustful of the state. Elwando Mbeki, a researcher at the Institute for Security Studies, cautions deploying the army is a dramatic short-term spectacle. It may suppress violence temporarily, but it does nothing to address the root causes: poverty, inequality, hopelessness. You cannot arrest your way out of a social crisis. In fact, heavy-handed tactics may only deepen the resentment that fuels gang recruitment. This debate mirrors a global tension between security and human rights approaches to organized crime. The kingpin strategy used against cartels in Mexico and Colombia showed that decapitating leadership often leads to more violent fragmentation as lieutenants battle for control. Conversely, community-focused programs require immense patience, investment, and political will, commodities often in short supply. So, what is different about Operation Shield and Spear? Authorities claim this is not just another police raid. It is being billed as a precision-guided, intelligence-led, multi-agency intervention. The key, they say, is the follow-through. For the first time, the operation integrates not just police and potentially military units, but also officials from the National Prosecuting Authority's Specialized Gang Unit, the Hawks Investigative Wing, the Financial Intelligence Center to track dirty money, and even social development departments. The plan is to arrest, prosecute, convict, and seize assets simultaneously, while immediately flooding the area with social services. Let's look at the numbers that define this ambition. The operation has a dedicated budget of 850 million rand, drawn from provincial and national contingency funds. It aims to process suspects through a dedicated gang court to avoid case backlogs. The target is to secure at least 150 high-confidence convictions of gang leaders within the next 12 months, with a minimum sentence guideline of 15 years. Furthermore, the social component plans to immediately deploy 200 community development workers, open 5 mobile health clinics, and fast-track infrastructure projects, creating an estimated 4,000 temporary jobs in the targeted areas. But the most telling statistic, and perhaps the greatest challenge, involves the youth. In the affected townships, a survey conducted last month by the University of Cape Town found that 16% of male adolescents between the ages of 14 and 18 expressed some level of admiration or aspiration toward gang figures. That is approximately 1 in every 6 young boys. When asked about their future prospects, 51 students out of a focus group of 300 in Manenberg High School said they saw no legitimate pathway to a stable income. This is the fertile ground gangs exploit. The economic pull is powerful. A low-level gang soldier can earn 5,000 rand per week for extortion and protection rackets in an economy where the official youth unemployment rate exceeds 70%. A skilled drug runner or enforcer can make double that. Contrast this with the minimum wage for a retail worker, which is roughly 3,500 rand per week. The choice, however brutal, is a rational one for many desperate young people. This brings us to the international dimension. Cape Town's gangs are not isolated. They are nodes in global networks. The methamphetamine, known locally as tick, flooding the streets is often manufactured using precursors smuggled from Southeast Asia. Cocaine arrives via shipping routes from South America, with Cape Town's port being a major entry point. The cash proceeds are laundered through real estate, luxury car dealerships, and even informal financial systems like Hawala. This international trade necessitates a response that transcends borders. South Africa's Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, the Hawks, has recently strengthened cooperation with agencies in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Brazil. There have been joint operations targeting the financial architects of these networks. Just last quarter, a collaborative investigation with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration led to the freezing of 120 million rand in assets linked to a Cape Town gang leader, including a luxury estate in Constantia and a portfolio of commercial properties. The potential deployment of the army also has a political subtext. It highlights the fractious relationship between the Western Cape Province, governed by the opposition Democratic Alliance, and the national government under President Cyril Ramaphosa's African National Congress. The DA has long accused the ANC of neglecting Cape Town's crime problem for political reasons, as the city is an opposition stronghold. The ANC, in turn, accuses the DA of failing to govern effectively and resorting to sensationalist calls for the army to cover up their own administrative failures. This political football has real consequences. Delays in approving previous requests for military aid have, according to provincial officials, cost lives. The current request is on President Ramaphosa's desk. His decision, expected within the next 48 hours, will be a defining moment of his second term. Approval would be an admission of the severity of the crisis and a risky political move. Denial would likely trigger a constitutional crisis, with the province potentially taking the matter to the courts. Beyond the immediate tactical and political calculations, there are profound questions about the social contract in South Africa. For the residents of the Cape Flats, the state has been largely an absentee landlord, present only through sporadic police raids or social grant distributions. The gangs, for all their brutality, are a constant presence. They offer a perverse form of order and economic opportunity. For Operation Shield and Spear, or any intervention to succeed, it must offer a better, legitimate alternative. It must be a state that delivers not just security, but dignity, education, and a viable future. This means sustained investment in early childhood development, quality schooling, youth hubs, and job creation linked to the formal economy. It means reforming a criminal justice system where witness intimidation is routine and conviction rates for gang-related murders are dismally low. It means addressing the spatial apartheid that still defines Cape Town by integrating townships with the city through affordable housing and reliable public transport. As we conclude this deep dive, the streets of Cape Town tonight are tense. Police roadblocks dot the entrances to gang territories. Residents are indoors waiting. The outcome of this operation and the decision on army deployment will reverberate far beyond the city's limits. It is a test case for whether a middle-income democracy can dismantle entrenched criminal enterprises that have merged with the social fabric. It is a struggle for the soul of a city between the forces of law and the forces of lawlessness. The world is watching. The lessons learned here will inform similar battles in urban centers across the globe where inequality, history, and organized crime intersect. The people of Cape Town's townships deserve more than a temporary ceasefire. They deserve a lasting peace built on justice and opportunity. The next 48 hours are critical, but the real work will take a generation. This has been a Kenya News Update Today special report. Subscribe to Kenya News Update Today for continuing coverage of this and other major stories shaping our world.